Hello, this is Nathan Stuke from Wisper, and today we're going to be talking about hiring and retaining employees, part two. Our last session we did, we focused more on the hiring, and today we're going to go into kind of the retaining of those employees, which is such an important part that I think a lot of people kind of miss. Since the last session, I had a couple other questions, and I wanted to go back to this one screen before we get into the retention part. And some of these questions, there's a couple questions on, well, it's kind of hard if you ask a direct question. So a lot of times people know what you're looking for, and these were some of my favorite. We talked about how do you make a hot dog, and if you could work for anyone. I wanted to touch on a couple others of those because the what is your favorite movie and why? When we ask that question, I can't judge your answer, right? But I can judge how you answer. Do you say, "Wow, well, there's just so many different movies to pick from. I love them all," or do you say, "Well, I really don't watch a lot of movies," or are you able to articulate why you really like a movie? And what it is about it, and that asking why is very important because one, we're trying to get to know the potential employee, but that why is something that's really important, because that gives you a chance to loosen up the conversation, right? You get the potential employee to relax. They can answer something that's kind of a fun question. I always joke that we're going to start with the hard questions, and then I ask them what their favorite food is and why, and then they're like, "Oh, well, So there's a way to kind of loosen up your experience when you're interacting with somebody. The last question we ask of uh, all of our potential new hires is what is your definition of integrity? And it is quite interesting to see the answers we get, right? And there is a right and a wrong answer for integrity, but there's the answer that we use, right? Doing the right thing when no one's watching. But then there's also lots of different answers. And what we're looking for there is, does the person really have no idea and they're not willing to tell us? Right. I love to see them squirm and love to see them kind of go through that whole process. If they don't know the answer, you wait and you let the awkward silence happen, because I'm trying to determine how you interact with people. And are you going to make up something and say, well, I think it's, when you do this and this, and it's like, no, that's not it at all. Or do you say, I really don't know? Another really good question we like to ask is, through all of our hiring processes, we go through our core values, and we state what our core values are, and we talk to them about why we hire, why we fire with our core values. And one of the questions I love to ask, instead of saying, okay, well, one of our core values is driven to solution. How does that resonate with you? What we ask them is like, well, have you gone over all of our core values, in your previous interview? Oh, yes, yes, yes. And there's a form, our top grading form they fill out. We've added some of the core values there. And we're like, okay, well, which one resonates with you the most? And sometimes people are caught off guard because they can't remember any of them, right? They draw a blank. And the employees that I have really loved that we've hired on, they tend to be the ones that either they know right away, oh yes, well, this one I really resonates with me, a lifelong learner. I'm a learner. I love reading. I love understanding. That's great. But the other ones that are the ones that are honest with us and say, well, we've gone over them, and I really liked your core values, but I honestly don't remember a specific core value. Could you help me? And then we always joke and say, well, they're on the wall next to you or something like that, and they can look at those. But the people who make up one, like we had one gentleman who said, well, I really like them all. And I really, I can't think of one that stands above the other. So I think I would just, I would say that I like them all. We're like, oh, okay, well, could you pick one and tell us about it? And he then stumbled all over and ultimately did not tell us that he didn't know what they were. But we closed up the interview and we were all done, and we all looked at each other and said, nope, he didn't remember any of them. And he lied to us, tried to cover up the fact. And that's not something that we want. Another one that I remember we did that I really liked is we were looking for an executive assistant for myself. This was about the October timeframe. And, with the whole holiday shopping coming up, it was at the end of October. And during small chat during the interview, we kind of said, oh, well, we got, the end of the day after Thanksgiving's coming up, and we got to go out and look for all of these Christmas presents. And I don't like doing that shopping, and my wife always wants me to go with her. So that was the comment that we made, and the executive assistant potential, she came back and said, "Oh, no, 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 I've already finished all my shopping. I get that done way ahead of time because I don't like dealing with not knowing or not having a plan, except for my brother. He's always so hard to shop for. I have to wait for him to come to town over Thanksgiving for me to know what to get him for Christmas." And that is a perfect example of someone who plans and thinks, and she's one of our best planners in the whole company now. Um, but had I asked her if she was a planner, she would have said yes. But if I'd asked her if she was a planner and she wasn't a planner, she probably would have said yes too. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit in that hiring process and step back there and say, you really have to think about the questions you come up with and what are you driving towards? Because sometimes you can't be as direct as you want to be to get the answers you want. So with that, let's go on to retention. And as I start all of the sessions with, I want you to define success. If you have 3 employees and you're completely happy, if you have 100 customers and you're great, uh, that is awesome. You set the bar. If you set the bar for your success, you will always be successful. Don't let other people set the bar for you, or you'll never be successful. So what is retention? And let's look at the worldview of retention, right? What a lot of people think and companies think about it. So hiring is all you have to worry about, right? I got to get a good person in the door, and then after that, I don't have to worry about it. And then a warm body is better than no body. So I know this person's underperforming. I know they're not really the best that we have, but you know what? It's better than nobody, and I just need the people, so I'm going to keep that person around. Another one is that there's an 80% chance, it's probably even more close to 90% chance that I will not hire a rock star, right? That I will not hire a star. So why try, right? This person's underperforming and the chances are I'm going to get another underperforming person. So remember, these are worldview. These are a lot of people have these views. They're only going to be here for 2 years. So, they're going to leave anyway. So I'll just kind of put up with what I have, or I don't want to train them because of that they're only going to be here for 2 years. And then everybody wants to get paid more for doing less. So these are some of the worldviews people have. Maybe you have one, maybe you have 2 of these, maybe you have none of them. But now I want to share kind of what Wisper's worldview is. So this is the way we look at it, that hiring is just the tip of the iceberg. And we're going to go more into that retention part. But that hiring piece is just it's the very, very, very beginning of it. A warm body is not better than nobody. We have seen time and time again that when a poor performer is coached up and they're just not coachable, and we have to remove them from the company or they leave on their own, how much better things get. In you thought, oh my goodness, I just needed somebody to answer the phone, when really what I needed was not that person, because they caused all kinds of other problems. We firmly believe that there is an 80% chance, probably closer to that 90 now, percent chance of a successful hire, of hiring a star, not just hiring a mediocre person, but we've put a lot of effort into our hiring process, and our HR team has done an amazing job. So when someone leaves because they need to, or someone is asked to leave the company, we have a very, very good success rate. And our managers can feel good that, hey, I'm going to get a great person in. This is an opportunity for me to hire somebody else. They are going to leave in 2 years anyway, but they are here today. I remember back in 2007, I struggled with, do I train my employees or do I not? And how do I do that? And I don't mean just train like, here's how to do your job, but I mean like extra training above and beyond, and pay for different certifications. And I really kind of struggled with that, because as an owner, I was like, but that's a lot of money. And what happens if they leave? And I think the question is, what happens if they stay, right? Would you prefer to have a trained up team that every once in a while somebody has to leave for one reason or another? Or would you prefer to have a non-trained team? And we firmly believe in, yes, they may leave in 2 years. That is the industry standard, or not the industry standard, but kind of the employment standard now. You see a lot of people job hopping. We have seen that not to be the case here. But even if it was, I would still want to train you, because for those 2 years, I want to be able to get the most out of the employee and have them enjoy working here the most. And then we also do believe, still, this didn't change, it's probably a worldview and it's a Wisper field, that everybody wants to get paid more for doing less, right? This is something that I don't know that we'll ever solve this problem, but it's not always about money. And there comes a point that once you are paid enough, then it's the joy of working where you work, and that's what we set out to do. So, what happens? You've hired a star. Now what do you do? And this is the part that I think a lot of people miss. Just like I think a lot of people miss understanding, when do I need to hire somebody? I think they miss the whole huge opportunity that as soon as they've hired somebody, and that's where we get into first impressions are huge. We have a new hiring plan. We have an onboarding program. We have lots of things set up to make sure you feel completely welcome. And I remember in one of the books that I read, they talked about, why do we throw going away parties for people who leave your company? We should be selling. We should be celebrating people who are coming to work. Be super excited for a new person to be here. So what we always like to do is we always like to have their computer set up, their username and password set up, a training program in place, set out their expectations, because that's the way we want them to feel, is that they are super important to us. They are not just another number that we're adding to our ranks, that their position is super important. It doesn't always go as well as we want, right? Especially with the COVID, it's kind of a little bit hard. Some of our training programs were all in person, and now we've had to virtualize those. But I've been a consultant at multiple companies before, and I come in even billing out at several $100s an hour, and IT doesn't have, one, my computer set up, or two, my password and usernames. And I literally have to sit there for the max I've sat there for a couple days waiting for them to get my credentials set up so I can go to work. And what kind of signal does that send to your brand new employee, that we thought highly enough of you to hire you, except we don't have everything ready for you? So I think that first impressions are huge. We also have a way to whisper, and this is something that we developed and we keep tweaking. They get a tour of the office. They get introduction to others. We talk about our Wisper core values and our vision, why we hire by those, why those are important to us, that they're not just something we say, but we live up to them, and how they can use those core values in their day-to-day decision making. We talk about their job metrics. Nobody wants to fail, right? But if you're not keeping score, you're just practicing. And we set up those job metrics and when their expectations, so that way they understand that, hey, for me to succeed at this role, this is what I need to do, and this is how I need to be able to perform and exceed expectations. And that's something that we do. We also have a program to help integrate them into the company. This is a 90-day program that we do. We use our DISC assessment. If you remember, we talked about doing the DISC assessment, or the personality kind of test. We have that where it works them into the whole program that they have for how do you become Wisper? What's the Wisper way? We indoctrinate them. We go over the history of the company. We have a couple videos from different employees, myself included, and they watch those. And it's a kind of an ongoing training for that first 90 days. And why is that first 90 days important? Well, I look at the first 90 days as a probation period, right? Hopefully you're on your best behavior. And it's a probation for Wisper, and it's also a probation for the employee. Not all employees will fit in at Wisper, and that's perfectly fine. Go be a rock star somewhere else. That's okay. We have our core values, and we hire based on those, and we fire based on those, and we promote based on those. And this probation period, we tell the employee, we thought the world of you. That's why we hired you. But you'll know you're not a fit here before we know you're not a fit here. And we haven't gone as far as Zappos. I think Zappos pays like $1,600 or $2,000 for you to quit, because they want people that truly love to help the customer, that aren't motivated by money. And we haven't gone that far, but we're very honest with the employee, saying you have to know how you fit in here, and you'll know before we do. And we want them to understand that it's okay. We'll help write references. We'll do something to have them move on to another company where they'll be better suited to be a star. And that's okay. They're not fitting here. We also do lots and lots of training during that period. We try to ensure that we have best practices. We're very big on training. We have training procedures and manuals set up for all of our different positions that we have. And it also allows us to understand very, very quickly, if they're going to fit into the job or not, right? So you have expectations. Some of our positions we don't hire a lot for. We have one or two people, and that's all we've needed. So it's a little bit harder to compare people. But we have some of our, like our CERs, our customers experience representative, where we have 15 to 20 people, and when we hire people in, it's like, oh, okay, huh, by this time you should understand how to do this, this, and this. And if they're way behind, then it's like, okay, do we need to change our training tactics and procedures? We have a really, really good person here. They just don't pick up things as well on the book side. We just need to do more hands-on with them. Or maybe they're not quite following what we're trying to say. Maybe they said they were more technical than they were. And having good training and a good training program, the last thing we want to do is get down to the end of 90 days and be like, huh, well, they really aren't picking it up, but we really haven't trained them, right? We have to be able to do that training. And it also shows the employee that we're dedicated to them. We always say that we hire based on attitude and work ethic, and we can train you to do anything. Now, of course, there's skills that we look for as well, but we're dedicated to the employees to get them up to speed as fast as we can. Another thing I think that a lot of people are concerned about is not giving feedback, both positive and negative. They say, well, yes, this they're exactly the person that I want them to be. Okay, well, tell them, hey, thank you so much for being here. It's exciting to see what you're doing. I'll answer any questions you have, but just give them that positive feedback. Also give them the negative feedback though. And what I like to say is be very, very nitpicky in those first 90 days. You'll look for any reason to fire the person in those first 90 days. And then after the 90 days, you look for every reason to keep them. You train them, you coach them, you really show them you're dedicated to them. But we've had several employees that we've had to fire over the years, and we went back and looked at it and said, huh, so within the first 90 days, were there any signs that we should have let that person go? Did they fall asleep during training? Were they late multiple times in their first 90 days? Did they not pick up things that fast? And all those employees that we fired within the first year, or they left on their own, and we were like, whew, so glad they left. We looked back and there were signs that we should have done something, or we should have at least addressed it, right? Applied more pressure to them to perform than say, well, they're not getting it right now, but they will. Or no, that's okay. We're going to figure this out. So I think that's something that a lot of companies wait for that 90-day feedback period, and they're like, all right, well, at the end of 90 days, here's how you've done. We need to be able to give feedback right away, consistently and constantly, for sure. So that's a little bit of our new hire plan and everything. And I think I'm going to take a step back now then, and now we're going to look at your retention. And you say, okay, so I've set now the course and everything. But before we talk about retention, I think you kind of need to know, who do you want to retain, right? I would imagine if you thought about all your employees or everybody within your department, you don't want to keep all of them, right? There's probably some really strong employees, and there's not some so strong employees. And I've always struggled with this. I want everybody to work for me forever. I want our employees to grow. I love bringing in somebody who needs some growth, and they have the right drive and work ethic and attitude, and they're willing to try and make mistakes and learn from those. But sometimes there's people that they're just not going to get it. So we use this quadrant, and it's really, really good. And it really helped frame it up for me. So we have right person, right seat, right? And then we have wrong person, wrong seat. And when we look at this, we say, okay, right person, right seat. That's a star. That's somebody who is performing amazing. They understand, they get their job, they want their job, they have the capacity to do it, get it, want it in capacity, and they are the right person in that seat. And then you have the next one you have is a wrong seat, right person. So this is somebody, we call them a puppy, right? This is somebody who you love. They're just amazing as a person. They're so nice. They're always willing to help, but they're just not doing the right job. Whether they just don't get it, they don't have the capacity to do it. I'm a visionary thinker, so I'm way out in front. That's what I'm thinking about. I would be the wrong person if you put me in an operations role that said, hey, think about all the detail, figure out how to execute on everything. I might be the right person for the organization, but I would be in the wrong seat. And these are people, a puppy, you need to coach them, you need to train them, You need to teach them, and hopefully you can get them into a star, or you might have to move their seat, right? And that's something that happens, and it happens fairly regularly. Although as you get better at hiring, you have to do less and less of that because you bring in the right people. The next one, this is wrong seat, wrong person. So this person does not fit your company culture. They don't understand the job they're doing. They can't do the job they're doing. They're just basically failing all around. They're really combative when you try to correct them on what they need to improve on, or they're very derogatory to others. Whatever makes it not fit your culture. And this is a rat. And when you think of rats, these are the people who are easy to get rid of, right? You don't like them as a person because they just don't fit, and they can't even do their job right. So these are people who are typically very, very easy to fire and say, "Yep, you're just, you're the wrong person. You're not getting your job done. We have every reason in the world to fire you, and we're going to do that." And so these are three that I would say are pretty easy to deal with. And these are all we've had all of these around our company, and we've worked with them, coached them, changed them, and everything. But this last one, it was really hard for me to do this because you have the right seat, but it's the wrong person. So this is somebody who doesn't fit into your company culture. And it doesn't mean they're a bad person, right? I mean, that's not what I'm saying by wrong person. It means that they don't fit into your company culture, and your company culture is unique to your company. So they don't fit into that. But they're in the right seat. They're amazing at what they do. They just get the job done. They're either your best salesperson or your most technical leader that you have, or they're amazing at what they do. It's right in their wheelhouse, and they really, really perform really, really well. But they're the wrong person. There's all these other side things that they bring to the table that makes them the wrong person. And I struggled with these people, right? Because you're like, no, performance. I need to get this stuff done. We need to get this stuff done. This is what happens. But when you call them what we call them, it helps frame it up in your head a little bit better. So we call those people terrorists. And I don't know about you, but I don't want a terrorist working for me. And a terrorist is the person who is amazing, everything's going great, and then they drop a bomb in a company meeting at the wrong time and say something that they shouldn't have said, that either got everybody riled up over something that didn't need to be riled up, or they don't take responsibility for what they're doing, or whatever makes it where they don't fit into your company. And that's something that I've struggled with because I see the value they bring. And I think for me, I personally hope and wish and believe that they can change as a person and they can fit into the company culture. But that's not always the case. So we train these people, we coach them, and sometimes you have to coach them out, and sometimes you get to coach them up. Something else you'll see that happens is you'll have a star, you'll have somebody that's amazing, they're just an amazing worker, and then something happens. Usually it's slow over time, or maybe your department gets moved under a different manager, and now this person they fall from a star, they become a falling star, and become a terrorist. And those are people that oh, but they've been in the company for so long, they were an amazing person. What happens? Well, you have to manage those people. And when they become a terrorist, when you put them in these quadrants, oh, I need to deal with the terrorist. I need to move them, do something. And obviously, we all want stars, and we're not going to have stars all the time in every role. But we should be always fighting for that. We should always be striving for trying to get stars in every role. And if you have puppies and stars, you train your puppies and make them stars. If you have terrorists, you have to deal with that. And then the rats, you also have to work with that. But we're always going to that star role. And while we may not have 100%, I believe we can get to that 95, 99% where people are stars, really doing what they should be doing. And we've moved different people around the company. And yes, I have lots of people who are willing to do any job for me that I need them to do. And then when we get them into that perfect role, it's like, boom, they blossom. It's just amazing talking to them. So this is how you kind of frame up. And when you go through this exercise with each person, it's a really, really good exercise to see how they fit in. And then that'll help you determine, do I retain them or do I not? And then if you go back to a hiring processes and you feel comfortable that, hey, 80 to 90% of the time I'm going to get a star in, well, why would you keep your rats and your terrorists? Because that you have a really, really good success rate at bringing in somebody else. So let's look at a couple other real world things that help people with retention. And culture is a key tool for retention. I didn't know this the first probably 5 or 6 years that I was responsible for culture. I had someone else setting the culture. I didn't know that at the time, but they were setting a culture of fear and I'm going to write you up if you don't perform and everything. And I was one of understanding and let's learn together. Let's learn from our mistakes. And I didn't realize that until when I went out of town. I would come back and people would be like, hey, look at this is all the stuff we got done while you were gone. This is amazing. And then when this other person would go out of town, the mood would go up and then it would go back down when they came back. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I didn't realize that. And then once I realized that I had to set the corporate culture and I have to be intentional about doing that. The company is a reflection of me, whether I want it to be or not. But if I am not setting the company culture, then someone else will be, and it's usually not the person that you want to be setting it. And that culture is it's not aspirational. You can have aspirational culture. You can have aspirational key core values, right? Your core values are part of your culture as well. But there was one example I heard that a bank president, one of their core values was trust, and that you have to trust the customer, and and they were really struggling with those different things. And it turned out that he was having an affair with his assistant, and everybody in the bank knew it. So it's kind of hard to have trust as one of your core values. It's an aspirational core values if you aren't living it out yourself. So I would recommend you spend a lot of time on those core values and your culture, because we hire, fire, and promote based on our core values. And our core values are an articulation of what our culture is. What do we stand for? And again, it's okay if people don't fit your core values. They just probably shouldn't be working for you, right? And if you have a lot of people in your company that don't fit your core values, you either haven't hired by them, or maybe you have different core values. Maybe you have a lot of aspirational values that aren't exactly what your core values are in your company. So I would say that culture is a very, very key thing. And the other thing with culture with that is it being such a key thing is that your culture will help weed out people who don't fit. So peer pressure is way more better than a top-down authoritarian approach. And I would rather have peer pressure push people out and then have, be a top-down approach. You're still going to have top-down, but peer pressure goes a long way. The other thing you have to think about with your brand, with your company is, what's your brand? What is the vision for your company? How do you convince people to come work for you? How do you convince people to stay working for you? People want to work for some place that has a cause more than ever. It used to be people would go work for the company because their dad did or because their mom did, and because I'm going to work at this company for 40 years and then I'm going to retire. It isn't that way anymore. You want people who believe in what you're doing and believe in your mission and your vision for the company. And this doesn't always mean that it's like, we provide internet. So our mission is not providing internet. Yes, we do that. But our mission and our core focus is that we create opportunities that make a difference, whether that be providing service to people in the rural markets where they never could get service before, and we're giving them an opportunity to live where they want to live and connect to the rest of the world, whether it be hiring employees from these rural markets that maybe don't have the education that you might expect that we would be looking for, and then seeing them grow because they have the right work ethic and attitude. Those are the opportunities that we're creating, and that is our brand. That is who we are as a company. Is we create these opportunities. Yes, we're an internet company, and yes, we need technical people to run the internet company, and yes, I want great marketing people, and I want great salespeople, and we want great support people. But our mission is to create opportunities that make a difference, and that's what we have everywhere, and that's what we live and breathe. And that allows people to focus around that as our core mission, and not just focus on, well, okay, I'm a janitor. No, you're not a janitor. You're someone who is making sure our employees can provide the best internet to the rest of the customers that we have by doing your part of making sure the building is clean, making sure the trash is taken out. So it's a really different mindset. And I think maybe we could actually even spend a whole nother hour or a whole nother session on just getting that brand and that culture. I know in today, right now with the COVID, there's a lot of people looking for work. And there's a lot of people who probably want to come work for your companies if you're hiring. But just before COVID, it was really hard to hire a lot of really good people and or find really good people. But our brand and going people going employees going on Glassdoor and everything and reviewing your own company, that really helped us. I've talked to so many candidates when I ask the question, why Wisper, right? You could work anywhere, why Wisper? And they always come back to saying, well, I did the research and it just seems like you have a family atmosphere, and I love what you stand for and what you're doing. And that's something that's really helped us create that brand, because that's who we are, and it draws people to us. The people that we want to work for us, it draws them to them. And if you draw those people to you, then your retention is a lot easier. So that's kind of all I have today. We've talked about a little bit on those questions. We've talked about um, the looking at what the world belief is, and then looking at what our belief is. And our belief is that you can be very successful in hiring good people, but it goes past hiring. It's past just hiring. You have to have a whole nother process set up. And I would say that other process, that new employee process and the retention process, is way more important than even your hiring process, honestly, because of what it can do for your company. And then we talked about when do you want to retain people, when do you not? And then we finished up with kind of the culture is the key for you and your retention. These are a couple of books that I think are really good, that'll help you with culture. They'll help you with your hiring process, and they'll help you with just in general understanding how you have all the ability to hire anybody you want in the world, right? We can hire anybody, and how do we hire them, and then how do we retain them? And I think these are a couple great books. So we'll kind of stop there and see if we have any questions from anybody. I know we had a lot of questions last time. I think it worked out great. So we'll see if we have any questions here. All right. Well, it looks like today we do not have any questions, but hopefully you got a lot of good information out of it. And we'll be on next week with some more topics that hopefully we can help you build your business and grow what you're doing and grow your passion and what you're passionate about. So with that, thank you very much.